What's up, everybody? So, hey, there's a lot of different ways I could do this, but
Va para allá.
Mayito Flaco y hermanos Cabrera, cuando todos los que estamos aquí presentes ingresamos a trabajar a su organización, todo era diferente, se respetaba familia, inocentes y sociedad, no había extorsiones ni secuestros, y se nos pagaban nuestras nóminas a tiempo. De pronto todo eso cambió, y obvio que ustedes como líderes de su organización saben perfectamente lo que sus mandos hacen por órdenes de Olegario, Sierra, Pariente, Lobo Güero, Bruno, Sargento y los demás. Ya está peor que los Zetas. Y para que sepan quién está hablando, somos gente del 7-1, al que le mataron a su familia que iba en la combi por la carretera 44 Valparaíso. Y tú, Sargento, ¿te acuerdas cuando nos topamos con la contra en Trojes? Estaba llorando y tuvo que ir el 80 para darte apoyo y aún así fuiste un malagradecido. Le matabas gente a flechas para quedarte con sus terrenos. Y para muestra, te recuerdo a uno, César El Mañas, y tú, vago, ya deja que la gente crezca en sus negocios. Y de los campesinos ni hablamos, ¿a cuántos han matado por cobrarles cuota? A partir de hoy tienen un nuevo enemigo, y es aquí en Valparaíso. A ustedes, señores del gobierno, ¿sí recuerdan la junta que se dio lugar en el rancho de Sierra, el niño artillero pegado a sombrerete? Donde acudieron altos mandos de la Policía Estatal, FIRS, Fiscalía y algunos de la Policía Municipal. Y a usted, Bunny, ¿cómo se siente en el BMW negro que le regaló Olegario para su seguridad? Igual que a usted, Rodrigo Reyes Murguesa. Aquí está la lista de algunos miembros de la policía que están dentro de la nómina de los MZ, cártel hasta el cual de hoy dejamos de pertenecer. Arturo Medina Mayoral, Rafael Fuerte Mendoza, Bunny Morales Sánchez, Gustavo Serrano Osorio, Juan López Mendujano, Luis Enrique Para González, Leo Pérez Portugal, Ricardo Díaz Salas, Alejandro Acosta Pozos, Hugo Zabaleta Aparicio, José Alberto Pérez Rivera, Miriam Guadalupe Saavedra, Soheili Berenice Figueroa y algunos que me hizo falta mencionar. Esos son algunos de los elementos que conforman el brazo armado de los MZ, de los cuales a partir de hoy somos enemigos. Y a usted, Omar García Harfuch, deje de mandarle equipos a la Policía Estatal, porque apenas les llegan, corren a enseñárselos a los MZ. Le pedimos caballerosamente que nos deje pelear contra los mayos. No los defiendan, porque los amigos de ellos son enemigos nuestros. Y si va a mandar un operativo en mi contra para defenderlos, nada más le pedimos que sea parejo y de una vez mande un operativo enjambre para que se dé cuenta de cuántos servidores públicos se llevará por corruptos. Aquí le hago mención de algunos: Rodrigo Reyes Murguesa, Cristian Camacho Osnaya, Ernesto González Romo, Verónica Díaz, senadora, Antonio Tiscareño de Anda, alcalde de Loreto, Pepe Saldívar, alcalde de Guadalupe, Rodrigo Ureño, alcalde de Jerez, Guadalupe Ortiz, alcaldesa de Valparaíso, Ramiro Hinojosa, alcalde de Sombrerete. Ese es el cochinero que se tiene en Zacatecas, pero nuestra guerra no es contra el gobierno, es contra los Mayos y Cabrera. Te reiteramos, Mayito Flaco y Cabrera tienen un enemigo más y vamos por ustedes. De antemano, muchas gracias a la gente que nos dio información. Estamos a la orden. Atentamente, gente del 7-1 y vieja escuela del 2-11.
I'm just gonna roll with it because what the hell. That light maybe isn't the best. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Whatever. So, hey, man, there's been a lot going on in the world. I've got contacts in Mexico. I've got people sending me stuff. I've got Matt Thompson's book, who was on, in fact, let me pull that up real quick. That's what I thought. Matt Thomas actually intercepted the untold fight against the Mexican cartels. Matt Thomas, he was just on Julian Dory again. And I've got the guy over here. Here's another one. One sec. I've got this dude right behind me on Vincent Vargas, America's Next Threat, Cartel de Jalisco de Nueva Generación. Special operations tactics learned in the Ukraine war, not stoppable. With some guy that's part of the Wolverines, who's apparently some vetted, non-bad actor. You listen to all this stuff and what does Matt Thomas got to do with all this, Dave? I've got videos on my phone right now where there are two individuals who I have brought up by name that are currently under investigation for working for the Mayo Zambada group that are members of my own platoon directly against Cartel de Jalisco de Nueva Generación. Real shit. Not some faceless dude that's part of the Wolverines and going through Matt Thomas's book. Good for him for writing a book. But also there's no hard, fast proof in any of that. And a lot of you guys have probably figured out what I'm up to by now. Calling people out straight up. I'm halfway through a book right now, and one of the things that I'm trying to do is make sure that I can sit there and get everything down to a gnat's ass as far as being able to substantiate and prove everything that I say. But the more I watch what goes on over in Julian Dory and Matt Thomas and everybody else, everybody's just speaking from their experience, or speaking with blurred faces, or maybe it's a 50 cal shell, maybe it's not. You're a reporter that's there, but it never occurs to you to take a picture and substantiate any of the shit that you guys have got going on. And then, to make matters worse, you got a government that takes up and defends child predators that's going over murdering in excess of 200 little girls, purposely blowing up schools, and now going after civilian infrastructure. And if I say anything about it, every one of my conservative brethren are going to sit here and tell me or be dismissive of my opinion on it's bad to blow up little girls, because they're going to say other people that live around where I live don't know the difference between a man or a woman, when I clearly define things by XX and XY chromosomes only. You got all this stuff going on in the world. And just today, a lot of you guys don't know it, but I use artificial intelligence a lot, and I use it to sit there and help sharpen my arguments against people. For example, if you ask ChatGPT what the founding document of the United States of America is, and I know because I just went through this with it, because artificial intelligence has a lot of problems with the logic and assumptions that it uses or does not use when it's talking to people in general. For example, if you ask ChatGPT, what is the founding document of the United States of America, it's going to tell you the Constitution, which is complete bullshit. It's not. The Constitution is not the founding document of the United States of America. That would be the Declaration of Independence. And then it's not even the second founding document of the United States of America. Those would be the Articles of Confederation. And then the Articles of Confederation again. And then it would be the Constitution. Way down on the list, man. One sec. I paused this just because I wanted to make sure that I had this right. There were actually 6 distinct drafts prepared between 1776 and 1777. However, only one official ratified version of the Articles of Confederation. And then there's all this history that goes on and stuff. But artificial intelligence will overlook a lot of this stuff and just give you some bullshit. What does that mean, Dave? It means that a lot of people in this day and age will run to Google, will run to ChatGPT, will run to Grok, will run to OpenAI, any of this stuff, type in some bullshit and then all of a sudden think that they've got like the magical elixir of all answers and that they're all knowing. And that's the way that they consume all of their media, and that's what passes for facts in their world. And that's okay. It's okay, but you have to understand that that is all the deeper their understanding is people that just live solely with what they're programmed to be told by some open source artificial intelligence, or it's not even open source, which is something which would be a step up, because then you could look at all you could look under the hood in the programming. Because when you ask any one of these artificial intelligence engines if there are certain questions that they cannot answer, or if there are any parameters that they operate within, the answer is invariably going to be yes, which means that they can no longer have an honest, open conversation, because their parameters will prohibit them from saying certain things, will prohibit them from not defending a certain agenda or perspective that other people might want an honest answer to. So even with all the stuff going on with my own boys back home, directly against Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, what's been going on? Like I told you, I'm like a third of the way through my book. I'm writing it. I don't know why people like Gaffe and people like Ed Calderon and all these other people like Sean Ryan, I don't know why they've been public personalities for like 10 years or so, have never written a book. And then when you ask a question like to Travis Haley, a MARSOC Marine, have you ever trained Ed Calderon in tactical magazine exchanges? You get the SITAR stuff. Everyone's so secretive. And looking at Matt Thomas's book, no, he can't prove everything in there. And so a lot of it's got to be taken kind of like as just piecemeal. He was a sheriff or an undersheriff, and he was chief of police. And he did write a book to where at least he's putting himself out there for public scrutiny. So respect to him for doing that, and respect for Julian for giving him a platform. I'm just curious why other people that have been public persona for so long have never taken the time to write a book and put themselves out there where they're going to open themselves up for scrutiny, or will they'll have to validate and substantiate their own claims, as I am currently going through right now. Wife is going to get mad for me saying all this, but as you can see, well, not now, it was up here. I love chess, man. I played it since I was a little boy. I started learning when I was 4 years old. I'm nowhere near a master. I'm probably an A-rated player with my rating. I think my best rating was 1900 and something, but that's also just screwing around, not being serious about it. I smash everybody in my family, I'll put it that way, with the exception of my grandfather. And I smash most people that I play. However, that being said, I've also been spanked by some 13-year-old kid in India and by some dude at Brigham Young University that just tore me up, man. So there's a lot more studying I could improve vastly, but I'm pretty sure that if I wanted to, I could, maybe when I got more time with other stuff. Things that we should be thinking about, man. So aside from all the cartel stuff with like my own brothers and other politicians in Zacatecas right now siding with the Maya Zambada cartel and working directly against Cartel de Jalisco de Nueva Generación with people that I am pictured with directly under investigation right now. You know, it's kind of crazy to be tied up that closely to something that just reminds me of Tommy G's Stupid. If you have any relationship or direct experience with Cartel de Jalisco de Nueva Generación, give them a call. These guys. I talked to Gooseberry yesterday, a major Spanish guy, or a major Spanish-speaking program that's bigger than Sean Ryan, and I think that we're going to do something. I don't know if we're going to do it in Mexico or whatever, but I spoke to him at length yesterday, and it was a pretty good conversation. And he's watched some of my stuff. I need to speak to my lawyer before I go over there. Plus, my work has rearranged my schedule. Not to my liking. Not everything's perfect in Davey Universe. In fact, pretty decidedly against my liking completely, but in line with the needs of the company. We'll just say that. I'm plowing ahead with my book. If you watch my channel for any reason other than cartel stuff, just to see like how your boy Dave does stuff, Dave gets all these things going on in his life. Dave is up front to the point. When you give an elbow, when you throw an elbow, martial arts lesson number 1, always throw your elbow with your thumb pointing down. That way you can get all that good bone in there. You're not going to give him any fleshy part. You don't want to give them any cushioning. Do this at your own risk also, please. But if you were going to throw an elbow, typically you would want to throw it with your thumb down to where you can get that great big bone right there and open up a good gash over their eye. If you were competing, whatever. Back to Dave, Dave's got all this stuff going on, so I have to do my database. I got to get re-enrolled for school. I have to finish this book. I have to worry about what's going on with my own brothers from my own platoon being involved with the Maya Zambada cartel when I go back home, which will be shortly here. And I got to figure out why we are allowing our government to shield child molesters openly. They're not even hiding it anymore. Why we're over blowing up little girls at school, and why we're providing all the weapons to Israel even though we're not Israeli. Why our American service members are over and going to die in the service of another nation that's not even our friend. There's all kinds of videos with Jewish people spitting on and hitting Christians, but these are the chosen people. Like I told you on another video, there's this black church I go to. Oh man, I've been praying every day at 12 o'clock that we get a new pastor, and I did not pray today because I've been all caught up with work. I've been praying every single day that we get a new pastor at that church. Haven't missed a day until today. Supposed to pray at 12 o'clock. Right now, it's 6 o'clock. I'm 6 hours late, but I did do it. And I've done it every single day. I am a person of faith. And when you say God's chosen people, it says in the Bible that by a fruit ye shall be known. And it talks about the New Testament being the new covenant with Christ. And that people are defining Israel maybe erroneously, not in the way it was supposed to be defined. And I've spoken about this before. I do have all of these heavy relationships in Mexico that I think about and that I don't voice, and in there, rolling around in the stew of stuff that goes on in Davey land is the way that human beings are being treated when nobody's around. The correctness of unaliving one little girl, or even 10, and if not 10, maybe 50, and if not 50, 100, and if not 100, hundreds, because when you get to 200 at that point, it's now hundreds. And the fruit that you shall be known, and the way that people are treated in Palestine and now are going to be executed by being hanged because the Knesset, Israel's Congress, said so. And then our government is openly supporting this. Donald Trump's children are Jewish people. And Jewish people do not have Christian values. They have their Jewish values. And I don't really, I do know what they are. There's 613 commandments, positive and negative. YouTube is going to sit there and try to be like, you can't talk about this country, you can't talk about this religion, you can't. You know what? Yes, you can. You can talk about whatever you want. You put on your big boy pants, you get away from the monetization of everything, and you say things the way that they are. So let's say some of the things the way that they are. Here's a comment that I came across on one of my videos. Maybe you like my videos, maybe you don't. Maybe my channel's not for you, I don't know. Not my problem. I'm going to say what I have to say. I like this one. Every government is founded on ad baculum and petitio principii can and will be used against you. Nothing moral requires authority. Authority is the claim to the exclusive exemption to morality. It is a monopoly on violence. Violence is a violation because it is the initiation of aggression, not self-defense. Offense, defense are ontologically distinct. All crime has a legal equivalent, i.e. taxation is extortion. Operations Flicker, Pathicus. I'm not arguing in favor of anarchy or anything like that. I'm saying all of that to say this, that to begin with, the strike on Iran was a preemptive strike, but then when you go on and you watch certain things, Israel has nuclear weapons, why can't Iran? Israel has been sanctioned or supposed to have their nuclear facilities open to the international, the IAEA, I think it is, the International Atomic, whatever, the people that govern that whole body. No, not whatever, it's not good enough. I have to, yes, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Israel has neglected to let them overlook and oversee their things, and we don't even know how many nuclear warheads they have, but they have them. Israel's gone in and just flattened all of Gaza. They've been open and stated what their plan is, to the river, to the sea. They say this too. They treat Palestinians like complete garbage in Israel. There is no freedom of movement. And when we're taking up with a country, you know, legally in the United States, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you come to the defense of someone that's just committed a crime, even though you didn't see the crime being committed, and so, for example, you see some guy beating some guy, but right before you got there, the guy that he's beating and trying to defend himself from had actually attempted to rob him and rape his wife, and you come to the defense of the person that's being beaten in that instance, you're legally culpable for helping him too. It does happen. You can look it up. You don't have to don't take my word on anything. Look everything up. Israel, let's get to this. Here it is. The United Nations Security Council Resolution 487, 1981, unanimously condemned the attack and called upon Israel to place its own nuclear facilities under IAEA safeguards. It refused. So there's a lot of violence. Not defense, aggression being meted out by Israel. I'm going to say it by name because and maybe fewer people will be exposed to my video, but I don't care because I care more about saying what's true. The United States is in a war that does not reflect the values of millions and millions of Christians and millions of Catholics, and even probably a few million Muslims and other people, and maybe even a lot of Jewish people too. I don't know, unless they're into killing little girls. I can't see how they would be. And I'm not pro-Muslim, and I'm not pro, I don't know what a woman is because whatever. I'm a normal red-blooded American just like everybody else, man. Nothing weird. You're not going to find any, here, let me just go like this. Look at Dave's book collection. Let's see if we see anything weird in there. There's nothing weird in there. No weird books. Judo, Saulo Rubiero, Jiu-Jitsu University, math, programming, etc., etc. More books over here, more books, etc., etc. Nothing weird, dude. I'm a pretty straightforward dude, man. No weird, hey, pink is the new tan, or you know what? I don't know. Whatever people are into. But I'm also not going to get all upset if people are reading that stuff too, because I believe in freedom of speech. But you know what I don't believe in? I don't believe in killing little girls. And I do believe in the Bible for the most part, as long as it's translated correctly. And I'm not talking about, you know, in the Talmud or in the Torah where they're talking about thou shalt not kill, but kill really is translated as murder, which means that the government is going to carve out a monopoly on violence, and they're going to give themselves permission to kill whoever they want, etc., etc. You guys see where I'm going with all that. I do not agree in going to war with people for the most part. You know, and I've really come full circle with this thing. You know, one time I was in Mexico. My cousin John and I, we don't get along very well. And I'm not going to badmouth John. And I'm not going to say that he won't show up and go fight in MMA tournaments or whatever. I'm going to trust that he's got his own life with his own challenges. I'm just going to say that we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And one time we were having an argument on Facebook, and I told him that if I saw him hanging from a bridge, that I would finish my tacos before I went to cut him down, and I meant it. I did mean it, and it was really wrong of me to say that. It was uncaring. It was very callous, and I wish I could take that back. That being said, I did say that in that moment of time while I was at work in Mexico. Because you do see some stuff, but you also get to see where you were wrong and correct things, man. And I started seeing the importance of humanity in that really in Mexico I learned that we cannot dehumanize other people, which is kind of a prerequisite to treating them that violently without dehumanizing yourself, man. And I don't care who makes heads or tails of that or what. You can just take my word for it that it hit home for me in a way to where, you know, I was abused my entire life growing up, man, severely. And I have watched a lot of people on the videos that I've been on, the podcasts I've been on. Oh, he's full of it. He's lying. They misinterpreted something I said. They completely mistaken something I said. I was there for every bit of violence that my stepdad Darb meted out to me, and then some. And then being locked away with a whole bunch of people that were in there for murder, attempted murder, armed robbery, and all kinds of other different things, to where you're dealing with all of that and all the violence that goes along with that, to being in the Bering Sea, violence there, and the people at the bars. In Russia, no real violence there, but the threat of it was still there because you didn't know if someone was going to snap, whatever. And then going to Mexico. So I've been around violence a lot. And you know what? Treating people humanely is important, man. Some people might figure that out intuitively. That was not my road to that, but I got there. And so I watch the government sit there, preeminently bomb somebody that never attacked us, preeminently bomb someone that we went in there and overthrew their government at the behest of another government. Watch this other government sit there and treat people inhumanely right and left, then do it to the weakest amongst us, which are little girls and babies all over Gaza, all over Iran, because they want the entire thing for themselves, which is greed, which is violence, which is selfishness, which is all kinds of immoral behavior that is nowhere in the commandments that I'm supposed to adhere to. And then in the New Covenant, which this religion does not adhere to, it talks about the Sermon on the Mount. It talks about lighting a candle and not hiding it under a bushel, but putting it out there for everyone to see. Which means that you don't have to cover up all your actions, and that you should be proud of what you're doing. Not sitting there bombing, and it's not in Western media. This country, this nation state, is bombing civilian places in Iran, girls' schools. Now they're talking openly about it, about bombing desalination plants. You know, a lot of you guys don't know it, but I was sitting there for a long time trying to figure out how to use solar-powered pumps and desalinate ocean water along poor, impoverished countries with large swaths of coastline, and even using paddle gates to have the waves pump the water and generate electricity, and using a parabolic mirror in order to heat up a crucible to extract the water out of it and leave the salt in it. And one of the primary problems I had with the Mylar film and stuff like that was the inherent windy atmospheres along these coastlines, which would basically sandblast your Mylar mirror, your parabolic mirror, to inhibit the focal point of all the sun's energy being able to heat up adequately the crucible and extract the water vapor from it. So I never got very far with it. But there are people that have figured out all these desalination plants that are expensive, and they're talking about blowing that up, which is going to make life harder on civilians. And you have this government that's killing little kids over in Iran. You have this government that's killing little kids down on Epstein's Island and maybe in New Mexico, but they won't even allow the New Mexico thing to be investigated. A government's completely bought and paid for by Iran. And to the people that say that they don't even know how to figure out whether a woman is a woman or if a man is a woman or whatever, I have a question to you. Do you know how to figure out if a little kid is a little kid and deserves to be protected? You know, screw their own personal psychological trip. I don't have it. And I'm betting you don't either. And I don't have any problem distinguishing between menor de edad, as you would say in Spanish, as a minor, or someone that is a consenting adult. Do you have a problem figuring that out? Because regardless of what the little transvesties and transgender crowd's doing, yeah, they don't know how to define a woman. That's great. Let me get a violin and play a song for you, My Heart Breaking. Because the government that does know whether a man is a man and a woman is a woman, they rule against it all the time in court. They just had another ruling today in Colorado. They do know that children are being abused here. They know that they're being killed potentially in New Mexico, cloned or whatever. You got this guy up here with blurred faces and stuff like that, and people speaking out of all these clandestine sources on YouTube. But you have a government that knows exactly who the bad actors are, redacts their name before it even gets over to the other government agency that's also a law enforcement agency. And they know that Tyler didn't shoot Charlie Kirk. That case is going out. This is kind of the point of today's video. We talked about a monopoly on violence right here. It was in a comment on a video of mine. We talk about it. We talk about the Declaration of Independence being the actual founding document of this country. We hold these truths to be self-evident. I don't need to have some other fellow conservative write off my opinion when I'm against people that are blowing up little kids and blowing up other little kids and sending our weapons to blow up other little kids. And then a lot of these kids are little babies and civilians and moms and dads that are sleeping in their apartment at night, the same as you and your family. To have you sit here and tell me that I can't be against that because somebody that is of a more liberal slant than I am doesn't know whether or not they're a man or a woman or whatever, and have you completely write off my point about the correctness of killing little kids. You know, I'm going to bring it up because it's important, because a lot of us are Christian, where we're going to bring it up right now. Here you go, my fellow Christians, because I do know what a woman is. My wife is a woman. She was born that way. Right? I'm not at all confused in this manner. And still right here, let's break out a little bit of Christianity for you. Matthew 18:6. Better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Right? Hold up, I want to get the rest of it. Let's go with Matthew 18, verse 5 through 7. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offense cometh. I'm going to go with Jesus digs kids, man. I'm going to go with if you harm a hair on their little head, woe to you. Woe to you. There will be great wailing and gnashing of teeth. Look it up. I'm going to look it up for you. This is about Jesus to describe the agony and fury of the final judgment, and refers to a phrase used 7 times in the New Testament, mostly in Matthew, wailing and gnashing of teeth. And shall cast him into the furnace of fire, there shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Look, man, we're governed by a government. You can take this how you want. We're governed by a government that declares or grants itself a monopoly on violence. It uses this monopoly on violence to kill kids and protect child predators. We have the Second Amendment, but this same government refuses to codify when it's okay to use that Second Amendment in the defense of the lives of little children. In the defense that children should not be sexually abused. In the defense of little schoolgirls going to school. In the defense of babies sleeping peacefully in their apartments in Gaza in the middle of the night when they're being blown up with American weapons. And I've done videos on the cost of per drop per blood with low-cost drones and etc. And I'm not going to get all the way back into that. I'm going to get into this. Aside from the fact that AIPAC has purchased most of our government, 66.8%, I think it was calculated. And that's not counting everybody that received donations from outside of AIPAC, because it's actually higher. And I'm not going to get into whether Trump received AIPAC money, because he did, or whether Kamala did it, because they both do. And the theatrics are different. The kabuki theater is a little different, but the result is the same. Every time. Biden, Bush, Clinton, they're all guilty of this, dude. I'm going to go into why has Congress failed to provide a failsafe in 250 years of what should be done by the American people who are the boss. The executor-in-chief of the American government is not the president. It is the American people. And when all of these things, by a fruit it shall be known, by a fruit a tree shall be known. When they are doing everything that we do not agree with, which is killing children, which is sending our troops to their deaths, which is doing everything that we do not want. We don't want to attack a peaceful country, even if we don't like them. You don't have to like every country, man. You don't like everybody on your block, but you're not in there invading their house, preemptively strike because their neighbor told you to do it. You don't do that. Use your brain, man. Think. You got to use the old bean, dude. Why our foreign agent purchase Congress has not put forth a plan to the American people, codifying in law, encapsulating legally to where the average American citizens knows what their duty and responsibility is when the law enforcement agencies and institutions in this country fail to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, and it is proven and even admitted to. And the response by the people heading these agencies are, well, at least the Dow Jones is high. Or the response by these agencies is to sit there and try to blame somebody with a 308 or 30-06 round going through Charlie Kirk because he's speaking out against this same agency, AIPAC, to be specific, and Israel, the nation state, not getting on the Jewish people because people are allowed to worship as they see fit. Religious freedom, it's important. And all of these people are known bad actors because they're covering up the crimes of these people that are being victimized in New Mexico, people that are being victimized in New York, people that are being victimized on Epstein Island, people that are being victimized in other countries, little girls that are being bombed in not one school but others, people that are being, little girls that are being bombed not once but 3 times. And now they're destroying the economy. Gas is going up wherever you're at, and not just gas, but the price of every other good that you purchase. And you have to sit there and wonder, is the quality of the world improving for yourself, or improving for your children, or improving for other people? And I'm going to go with no. No, it's not. And I have argued for peace every single time, because that is what our God tells us to do. I don't have all the answers. I do play a fair amount of chess. I've got other books in here. I've got other books in the other room. I don't like the fact of going home and facing my brothers back home because they're all involved with things that potentially they shouldn't be involved in, man. But that's the world I live in. I'm married to my wife. I've got family here and I've got family in Mexico. And I don't want people sitting here talking with masked faces on any more than I don't come to you with the perfect grill. Even though, hey, I've got it right. No, you know what? Hold up. You're going to love this. Yeah, I did. I got it right there. Look, I got this thing. It cost me like $500. Hi, my name's Dave. My name's Howdy Doody. I got a perfect grill. I got another one for the bottom. Guess what? It's imitation. Not real. Disingenuous. Not authentic. This is me, man. You either accept me for who I am or you don't. If you don't, I don't give a damn. That's your prerogative, man. But what I'm not doing is I'm not covering up my face and I'm not telling you something that isn't genuine, isn't heartfelt. I have no problem against any yarmulke wearing person that wants to go home. You know, I played soccer for a long time. I still remember their names. Steinbergs, and one of them was a coach, and I was playing one of his son was on my team. I don't have any problem with those guys, man. As long as they're not spitting on me or hitting us for being Christian, I don't give a damn what they worship. But then when they start shutting down Catholic churches in Israel and denying other Christians the same right that I afford them openly, and will always do so because that is completely in alignment with freedom and completely in alignment with the free agency our God, our Christian God, gives us. I'm going to be against it, not because they're Jewish and not because it's Israel, but because it's against the core tenets of freedom. You know, Noam's big titty wear. I've got no issues with anyone's sexuality. That's their business, man. I have problems treating people inhumanely. I have problems, big problems, with killing little girls. I have big problems with foreign actors buying and purchasing our politicians. I have huge problems with the lobbyists in general that lobby politicians and purchase everything. I got big problems with the billionaires providing seed money to drone armies that could kill all of us. I've got a lot of problems with all of this stuff, and people want to sit there and sensationalize stuff on YouTube so they can sell some products and sit there and turn a blind eye to all these children being blown up. Look, man, this video is 41 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Hey, bebita! Chula! Hey, si tenemos quesadillas ya listos? Hold up, let's see something. Hey, bebita! Oh, they're already cold, man. You see that? I'm in here talking, and my wife made me quesadillas. Tell me again. Hey, can you? What are they?
No, I cook and they're super cold, so you need to come here and warm up.
Oh man, see, you see that? I think I've upset the wife. I'm gonna call this a thing. You know what? I've learned a lot about a lot of things. And I read a lot, Anthony Bourdain. I read a lot about a lot of different people, and we live in a great, big, beautiful world. Maybe the only one in its existence in the entire universe. I don't know. I think probably not, but it could be. And I'm going with, I want you to be able to enjoy to the fullest, no matter what color, what gender, what political party, what race, any of that you are. I want you to be able to have the very best existence here. And I know that in wanting that, I'm opening myself up to receive those same benefits. And I submit to you that when we are allowing our politicians to wantonly go out and execute violence against people that are not being violent, or execute violence against people that do not like having foreign actors like the United States going in and subverting Iranian politics in 1953, and do not like Israel sitting there and subjugating an entire population on their land. On their land. You know, we can even get into that. The genetics of the Palestinians are from the Levant. Initiating violence, which is aggression, it is offense, it is not defense. It's not helping all of us get to the goal of living our best life, man, for any of us. Working more than we already do to buy stuff. It's got to stop. It's got to stop, guys. So, you know, these are conversations that we have to start having. When is it okay to intervene when the law enforcement agencies are not doing their job? When is it okay to intervene when the politicians are bought and paid for by every lobbyist, and many of whom are foreign actors? And why have our politicians not codified this in law when they'll codify everything right down to protecting a banana slug, but they won't protect your freedom and they won't protect little kids? I'm going to leave it at that. You guys should start having these conversations too. And don't worry, because in the interim, we can wonder if whether or not our own degrees that we're going to school are going to be any good against artificial intelligence or fleets of autonomous, sentient killer drones. More stuff that our government is not protecting us from. They'll protect you from, I don't know, let's say a car collision with mandatory insurance because their politician buddies or corporate business buddies are getting rich off of that mandatory law, but they won't protect you against a fleet of self-aware, sentient, autonomous kilowatt drones because the human's been removed from the command chain in that. Enough out of me for the time being. I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna upload it, we'll see what's up. I'm going to the gym. Au revoir.